Hello, good morning, good afternoon. How are you? Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I am Sam Marie, Samantha Marie Lott, if you will. And I am here today to tier rank popular BookTok books that I have read in my time. Somebody just started doing yard work the second I hit record, which is their right. It's great weather out. To get started, we are gonna crack open a cold one real quick. Crack open an Alani. It is unfortunately the juicy peach flavor, which I'm not a massive, oh my goodness. My goodness. Juicy peach is not my favorite. It brings me back to an era of time where I was drinking bottles on bottles on bottles of Lipton peach tea. So the taste and flavor does kind of make me want to regurgitate, but I do need a fun drink but so is that fun? I don't know that it's fun, but fun in a way that I need to drink with caffeine, with a caffeinated bevy, if you will. Now, you guys have certainly seen plenty of the booktubers, Sarah Caroli, Destiny Sidwell, Madison Kate, have done these tier rankings, and I thought maybe it's my turn. Maybe it's my turn to have fun, and I think we're recording. In my tiers of my first tier ranking, I have at the very top Touched My Soul. This book literally hugged my soul. This is beyond 6 stars. Spoke to my brain. This worked for me. I don't necessarily know why. I don't have all the answers, but this book worked for this guy up here. Hard yes. Just a hard yes. Good book. It didn't necessarily engage with me as intimately as those previous books have, but it's a hard yes. You should in fact read it. Soft yes. Good. Solid 4-star. Just Fine is a 3-star. It's just fine. I can see why some people like it. I can see why some people don't like it. The next one is I Don't Know This Girl Anymore. This is, I don't even know if I know these books anymore. I don't know who that person was anymore. Don't know her. If I saw her on the street, we wouldn't recognize each other. And then the bottom one is just Yikes. So the order is going to be a little bit weird. Just bear with me, you know? So the first book I have on here is A Line to Kill by Anthony Horowitz. This is a murder mystery. This was a little bit before my BookTok, Bookstagram era, before I knew that there were influencers out here influencing you to read certain books. I had just graduated PA school in 2022, and I was like, yes, I don't have to read these textbooks anymore, so I'm going to read books for fun again. It is my time. This is an involvement in my life, and I'm very excited for it. So I go to the bookstore, and I pick up this book. It is the third in an interconnected series. Didn't know that. I guess you don't have to read the first two, because I fully understood it, but it was just fine. I mean, just a solid just fine. I know they're on an island. This author who writes mysteries and a detective who detects crimes go off onto this island, and there's a murder mystery happening. Now, Verity by Colleen Hoover. I picked this up in the same... Oh my goodness, I gotta take the dogs out. They're whining. I don't know if you can hear that. Now let's get back to it. Verity Colleen Hoover, bought in the same little book trip to Barnes & Noble. At the time I was really looking for mysteries, murder mysteries. This is probably my favorite Colleen Hoover I had ever read. It's a little bit of like romance with a mystery thriller, and it's pretty spooky, eerie. I'd give that one a soft yes. It was solid. The last book I believe that I picked up on that book shopping trip was The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle, and I really enjoyed this. I would give that one a hard yes. This is essentially a murder mystery, but Groundhog Day. Make it Groundhog Day. You're following this person who's going to wake up in a different person's body every single day, and they have to solve the murder mystery in order to get back into their own body, be their own person, get out of this. 4 stars. After I had read these books, I went to a friend's house, and those friends were also getting into reading big time, and we're talking about this. I tell them I've just read Verity. They sent me home with, probably 5 Colleen Hoover books, and I read one a day. They were so easy to binge and read, but when I tell you I cannot remember a singular thing about any of them. Ugly Love, Colleen Hoover, I'm gonna put that in I Don't Know This Girl Anymore. Then there was this combination of a maybe someday, maybe now little duology. It might be a trilogy, but I'm not super confident on that. But maybe someday. I do remember this, and I'm gonna say Big Yikes. Cheating trope. Maybe now, maybe we'll give that one a just fine, because I'm glad that we got to see the girl who got cheated on. I'm glad that we got to see her fall in love and find love, but I also don't remember anything that happened in the book other than the girl who gets cheated on and maybe someday finds her man and maybe now. The list goes on and on. It ends with us. Read that. I don't know this girl anymore. November 9th in Confess, we're also going to go I don't know this girl anymore. Layla by Colleen Hoover. Big Fat Yikes. And I apologize to anybody who loved this book dearly, but this book is one of the books that I actually did not enjoy whatsoever. Like, I disliked this book. There is a cheating trope, but it's a paranormal cheating trope, but it actually ends up being the person who, spoiler, I don't like anything about it. This is The Keaton Chronicles by Gillian Dodd. I don't know who's read these. The only people that I know of who have read these books were the other girls that I read them with in high school. This follows a girl in high school. She has very famous parents. Then she goes to boarding school, and then she's like the traditional 2000s it girl. Like, she's just one of the guys. It's definitely very unrealistic. She has like the stalker, but I mean, I ate these books up. But I don't know this girl anymore. Like, it was just a different time of life, you know? And then my friends and I, we started a book club where we used to make PowerPoint presentations. One of the books that was a part of that was The Silent Patient. And I would give this a soft yes. It was really good. I did predict the end, but I had a lot of fun in predicting the end. It made me feel good about myself that I knew what happened at the end of that book. I know my husband really liked this book too. Next I got very deep into Sarah J. Maas realm. Let me just rapid fire because everybody knows about these books. Assassin's Blade, soft yes. Throne of Glass, hard yes. I had a fun time with Throne of Glass. I loved being in the castle. I loved the competition. Crown of Midnight, same. Hard yes. Heir of Fire, just fine. Queen of Shadows, Dorian has my heart. Forever and Always Will. Empire of Storms, hard yes. Tower of Dawn spoke to my brain. Kingdom of Ash touched my soul. Now, I know that's probably some hot takes. Empire of Storms, I was getting a little bit bored with Lorcan's and Elide's storylines. I will admit that. You know, I love that he made handmade pads for her out of his t-shirt, but of course the ending is tragic. But I had more fun following the story of Empire of Storms when it went into Kingdom of Ash. Those perspectives and POVs, I enjoyed those more in Kingdom of Ash than I did in Empire of Storms. And then Tower of Dawn, I love a redemption arc, and I think that specific character had the most human reaction out of any reaction. He had the human experience in this world that was suddenly becoming so magical, and I really think like you'd be in Empire of Storms and it felt so cold, and then you went to Tower of Dawn and it felt so warm, and that's the best way I know how to describe it. So ACOTAR, this whole thing, ACOTAR is probably soft yes. ACOMAF is probably hard yes. Court of Wings and Ruin is probably hard yes. Christmas Special, probably soft yes. And then A Court of Silver Flames is probably soft yes. I think they ruined Nesta's story and what it could have been with some of the scenes, some of the spicy scenes, and I know that was kind of supposed to be a part of her story, but it also, because of so many people read it and that was such a prominent point in it, that people hyper fixated on it in comparison to, you know, the amount of chapters that were spicy in that book compared to the other ones. People were so hyper fixated on like, oh, it was just so smutty, it was just so smutty, it was just so smutty. And it took away from the importance of Nesta's story. And so I wish that hadn't have happened with that. But yeah, I'm not going to spend too much more time on those books. Everybody knows those books. Then I picked up my first Ali Hazelwood book. If you have not read a book by her, she is known for her STEM romances, quirky characters. I love her book, Grumpy Men. And The Love Hypothesis was the first one I picked up. Spoke to my brain literally. I had one of my first migraines in probably like 4 or 5 years. I couldn't do anything. So this was the first time I ever picked up an audiobook. Oh my gosh, I don't know. I forgot about the migraine. I was having such a fun time listening to this book. And then the next day when I didn't have a migraine anymore, I drove on over to Barnes & Noble, got the hard copy and finished it. And I love this book. I love this one. Some of her earlier books suffer from like big man, small girl syndrome. And so I'm sure it was mentioned quite a bit in this one and it would make me cringe, but I don't care. At the time that I read this, I needed this and I loved it. Beach Read by Hemley Henry. This was not my first Emily Henry book. I read this at a pretty unfortunate time in life. I found out that my mom was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer, and so because of that, this book is just fine. It wasn't doing enough to bring me out of like that devastation and despair at the time, but I will reread it again when I'm ready to reread that book. So moving on. Happy Place? Oh, Happy Place. Touched my soul. Touched my soul. Harriet understands me and I understand Harriet. We are one and the same. Our brains operate pretty similarly, and I love this mother effing book. If you don't like it, don't let me know. Don't let me know, because you will hurt my feelings. If you say you don't like Harriet, that will also hurt my feelings. Okay, love theoretically. We'll go soft, yes. I really enjoyed this one too. I love her writing style, zipped through it. But this one, for me, like really suffered from that like small girl, big men syndrome, and that it made me cringe a lot, quite a bit. But I still recommend. I'd recommend every single one of her books that I've read, honestly, but that's that. Hooked by Emily McIntyre. So my husband wanted to go get some books for me for my birthday, for a birthday present. And he was like, well, she recently read ACOTAR and like that person recommended Hooked. I'll put just fine. This is like dark fairy tales. This Hooked is specifically a Peter Pan, Wendy, Captain Hook retelling of sorts. At that time was the smuttiest, spiciest book I'd ever read, and I wasn't really like into the plot or following the plot, or I'm not sure. It just wasn't for me, but I could see why it would be for other people. I did read Fourth Wing at the beginning of 2024, I think. I'll give a soft yes, like just a gentle yes. Fourth Wing was fun. I don't think it was like the most exceptional. I just don't think it was the most exceptional, but it was a lot of fun to read. It was very fast to read. I had a fun time. Iron Flame, I'll probably put soft yes to. I read them back to back, so I think that made it nicer as far as like following the storyline. Soft yes, yeah. If you want to read it, read it. If you want to like read about dragons and crazy powers and war and stuff, like they're fun books. I did read Haunting and Hunting Adeline. I did. This was like my first like true dark romance that I ever read, and I don't think it's for me, but maybe we'll go I don't know this girl anymore, because I just don't think it was totally for me. I think I liked Hunting Adeline a little bit more. There's darker topics, but we're not romanticizing the darker topics in that one. I don't know, like the gun scene, and enough said right there. You know what I'm talking about if I say that and if you've read it. So I don't know this girl. Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren. We'll go soft yes. This was good. This was fun. It's a romance, then and now timeline. Something happens in the past that is the reason these two characters aren't together currently, and you're kind of working through that process. It was fun. It wasn't life-changing, earth-shattering. And then Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. This did change my life. This changed my life. If you saw my last video, you would understand, but I love this book, Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. B.E. Schwab can do no wrong in my eyes. I've only read 2 books by her so far. I will read more books, but fantastic writing style. Her writing style is so romantic. It's an evolution of a character through time. You're just following a character study throughout this whole book, and then all of a sudden the plot is there, but it sneaks up on you, and by the time the plot is there, you are so attached to that character. In a standalone book, you're so attached to that character that you're like, oh, Victoria, if you hurt me, I'm going to be broken because of how much you let this character get intertwined in my brain and ingrained in my skin. And that's what she did with Addie LaRue. And this book, I sobbed. I didn't know this was supposed to be a tearjerker, but it was. So that literally touched my soul. Favorite book of all time. Archer's Voice, I might go like Archer's Voice, probably hard yes. This is a romance book. A girl needs to get away from her life. She moves to a small town. There's this boy who's kind of an outsider. Nobody speaks to him, and it is because he an Archer's Voice, or is he deaf? Okay, I did not want to misspeak. Google's telling me that Archer was mute due to childhood trauma. I couldn't remember exactly what happened. Because of that, he was kind of labeled an outcast and outsider, but this outsider comes to town and meets up and starts hanging out with this considered to be an outsider, and their love goes on from there. It was just so sweet. I loved it. I had a really fun time with it. And there is a crazy thing that happens towards the end that had me sobbing, and then you like turn the page and you're like, oh, reel it back in, get it together. Binding and Keeping 13. Binding 13 probably will go hard yes. Keeping 13. Okay, Binding and Keeping 13 will probably go hard yes. Saving and Redeeming 6 will go. Saving and Redeeming 6 are going to be Spoke to My Brain. Bride by Ali Hazelwood. I go like a soft yes. A soft, gentle yes. Because I ate it up, I'm not gonna lie, because her writing style is so good, but the werewolf part of this is a little like a fantasy standalone romance of vampires and werewolves. The werewolf spice is not for me, and I do not judge those who it is for, right? Do your thing, but not for me. Oh, Rose Hill series. I don't know where Wild Love is in this, because Wild Love should probably go first, since it's the first one, but maybe it's not in there. But Wild Eyes, Spoke to My Brain. I love Wild Eyes. I don't know why this resonated so much with me, but this one, I read this on a plane and I'm literally reading the book, giggling, kicking my feet in public, like so embarrassing. And I didn't annotate it because I was like on a plane. I just didn't have any annotation things with me. And I wish I did. I'll probably reread this book. Wild Eyes by Elsie Silver. If you don't know anything about Elsie Silver, she writes interconnected standalone romance series. She has Chestnut Springs, Gold Rush Ranch, and then she has her newest one is Rose Hills. Rose Hill series is my favorite series of hers. I know a lot of people really love Chestnut Springs, and I really love Chestnut Springs. Do not get me wrong on that. If you have not read an Elsie Silver book before, I think you should get into them 100%. Now, Wild Side was just fine for me. You know, I read it really quick. It was an Elsie Silver book, but the male main character in this is like WWE, like, I don't know, like wrestling, but they like wear masks and stuff, and gave me the ick. I can't lie about it. There's a scene where he's like, he has to do this promotional video and he's like in the basement and he's got his mask on and the female main character walks down and it's so fucking cringy. Now we can do the Crescent City Sarah J. Maas. This is the first one. I don't actually know what it's called. House of Blood and something. I'd go soft, yes. The other one, I go just fine. Like, I don't really care about this series. I don't know that I know that I'm probably not going to continue it anymore. Darling Venom. This book, I don't even know why I picked this up. It was like a Kindle Unlimited. I had just started reading like dark mafia romances. We're gonna also probably go just fine. This has some darker topics to it. So we're following her and this friend, and then there's a storyline between her and her friend's older brother, and then, you know, romance ensues. And I really did like it. There's just quite a few like cringy things to me. There is a OBGYN scene. No. If it didn't have that, it'd probably go in a soft yes, but just fine because of that scene, because I'm scarred. There she is, the Predator. Spoke to My Brain. I loved the Predator and the Reaper. Spoke to My Brain, 5-star books, loved these. This is the Darkverse series. It's a dark mafia romance series. The first 2 books follow 2 specific characters and their love story, and then the next one will follow a different set of characters, but they're all in the same world and you're following the same plot line underneath all of it, just you're following different POVs every time. The Predator and the Reaper, you're following Tristan and Marana. Love them, love their story. Tristan, man of few words, doesn't say too much, but love him dearly for it. The Emperor, we're gonna go just fine. I read it and I liked to continue the plot of it, and I liked a lot of the female main characters in this, like learning about her, but he was like supposed to be the mafia king. Because of that, they call each other king and queen. No thank you. No, thank you. The Annihilator? I wonder which one is which, the Finisher or the Annihilator. I'm gonna go with my gut and say the Finisher must be the 4th one. This one's gonna be just fine. That follows Dante in the 3rd book, The Emperor. His long lost brother or cousin maybe is the main male character in the finisher, and it was just fine. I just didn't really care about their love story or anything like that. The Annihilator, I'll go soft yes. I did care about this female main character a lot. I wanted to know what was up with her, what was going on. Probably the like heaviest in terms of like dark romance in this series is the Annihilator, then the Syndicator. Yikes. I was on the edge of my seat for this release. This came out in 2024, I think. It was an awful ending to the series. None of it flowed. It felt like a totally different author. I didn't like it. Ooh. Okay, now we're in the Chestnut Springs. Flawless will go soft, yes. This is the first of the Chestnut Springs series. I won't get too deep into it, but you're following Rhett and Summer. Summer is kind of having to like babysit Rhett. You're following their romance. It was fun. It was a lot of fun. This was my first Elsie Silver book, and then I went ahead and just binged all of the rest of them. Reckless. This isn't the right order, but Reckless is Winter, who is Summer's sister from Flawless. You're following her and Theo. I'll go hard yes for them. Heartless, we're gonna also go hard yes. Heartless is my favorite one of this series. Powerless will go hard yes too. I mean, forget about it. Let's just go hard yes. And then Hopeless, I don't know if I put Hopeless in it, but the last one with Bo, I was really looking forward to that. I would go just fine for that. I don't have it pictured here, but we're gonna go just fine. Fear the Flames, yikes. This is a enemies to lover fantasy romance. There's dragons involved. You're following a long lost princess who's been like hidden away, and she has these 3 dragons, and she meets with this assassin who works for like the other side, who she's supposed to be against, and they meet up and they make this plan for getting her dragons because her dragon eggs or dragons are like in captivity. And didn't like the writing, plot holes. I felt like they were just took a bunch of different scenes from BookTok and put it on paper and put it together and bound it up and sold it. But the cover, gorgeous. The goal of the story was their execution was not. The Striker? Hard yes. Random pick, but I'd never read an Anna Huang book before. This was my first one. Picked it up on Kindle Unlimited for some reason, and I loved it. He is a soccer player, and she is a ballerina, and he has to take classes from her. Him and the ballerina's brother are like beefing, and now they have to work on the same team, and they take these classes together to like work out their issues, but then of course he falls in love with the guy's sister, and then there's issues because of that. So that was a good one. That was a fun read. I liked that book a lot, so I would definitely recommend that. I don't actually physically own it. I should probably take myself to the bookstore to get that book because I had so much fun reading that. Two Can Play, I'm gonna give it like a hard yes. I hadn't been into audiobooks since I had read The Love Hypothesis. I wasn't a huge audiobook listener at the time, and I kind of go in and out of phases there. But Two Can Play, Ali Hazelwood, I was just like back and forth from work. I didn't feel like singing in the car anymore. I didn't want to listen to any podcasts. Nothing was working for me, and this popped up on my recommended, and I was like, you can't even read this book, so I might as well. Like, I want to ingest everything that Ali Hazelwood has to offer me, so let me ingest this. Listen to it in like 2 days. Basically, these 2 rival companies have to go on the ski trip together because they're merging to work on a project together. The one girl from one side and the one guy from one side, start to have a romance, and I loved it. I thought it was so much fun. Love Redesigned. I'm almost like missing something in between Just Fine and I Don't Know This Girl anymore, because I still know this girl, but I don't think it was Just Fine, but I don't think it was fully a Yikes. Maybe I'll go Just Fine because I can see why other people like it. I just didn't like it, I just didn't like the writing style. It just felt like it was like, we walk to the park, we then do this, I go to work on this, da 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 period, da 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 period. I just couldn't get into the book. Sometimes when you're reading books and you start reading a new book, it's like trying on a new pair of shoes, like running shoes that you have to break in, and it's just like so uncomfortable at first, and you're like, oh my god, these words, and like they write it so differently, but like as you start getting into it, like suddenly you're lost in the words and you're not even reading anymore, your mind's just somewhere else. This book, that never happened. My shoes never broken. Wild card, I just read this recently, and we are gonna give this one soft yes. Because good, a lot of fun, but there were some cringy moments, and that's okay. This is again a part of Elsie Silver's Rose Hill series. It's all a bunch of single dad tropes in this specific series, so like there's a problem. That's the main conflict, is the son in this one for certain reasons, because she is falling in love with her ex's dad, and the dad is just starting to learn about his kid and have a relationship there, and so there's issues because of that. But I did really like the characters, like their love story, just didn't like change my world. Unwanted, Mia Sheridan, low-key like hard yes. This is part of her Monsters and Men series, something like that, but I just saw this at the bookstore. I love the cover. The only other Mia Sheridan book I had read was Archer's Voice. Loved it. And you are following a girl who comes back to her town, and she like gives nature tours, and because of that she's very familiar with the landscape, so she is asked to help detective scope out the land because there has been a murder, and through that she meets somebody who lives out in the woods, and it's like a mystery with a romance, and it was a lot of fun, and I would definitely recommend it. People We Meet on Vacation, Emily Henry. I'll really like this one. Hard yes. Hard yes. I loved People We Meet on Vacation. This is a then and now timeline Emily Henry book. Her books are hard on the woman's fiction. They are a romance in and of themselves, because the characters are going to end up together at the end, but they have a lot of literary fiction and women's fiction's elements to them, as you've heard literally everyone and their mother say before. But People We Meet on Vacation, this is the then and now. You're following Poppy and Alex. It is about to be a movie on Netflix, and I can't wait for that. Poppy's so outgoing, Alex is very introverted, and Poppy is now living this life where she's traveling for work, and the two main characters haven't spoken for a little bit of time due to a reason that you will find out. Six of Crows spoke to my brain. It is like a bandit of thieves set off to do this impossible mission, and you just fall so deeply in love with the characters. It is YA fantasy. It is duology, and I have not picked up Crooked Kingdom, and I don't know why. I probably will this spooky season, this October. This is a recommendation that I can fall back on, that I'm like, I could recommend this to everyone, right? Kristen Hanna, The Nightingale, spoke to my brain. Down with this one. I did sob. The Nightingale follows, this is a historical fiction, and you're following two sisters and their very, very different experiences during the war. It is devastating. There's twists, there's turns. Kristen Hanna talks about like all the research she does to make her historical fictions like pretty accurate to the history, which is really cool too. So definitely recommend. That's another book I think anybody could read and anybody could enjoy. It is very like simplistic writing style, but I think that's good for books like that, so they are digestible for everybody. It makes it like more accessible. Funny Story by Emily Henry, probably a soft yes. I love Emily Henry's writing style. She is one of my favorite authors just because of what she did with Happy Place and other books, but Funny Story just didn't necessarily do it for me. Both of these two main characters, their significant others are now broken up with them and they are together, and so now this female main character needs someone to live, so she lives with this male main character, and then they're kind of like living day to day. They like don't really make sense at first because they're very different, and then they kind of start to unravel this like unlikely friendship, and a love story ensues from there. It just didn't change my world, you know, and I know that some of people's favorite is that a funny story, and I'm so happy for them, but I don't fall into that category. Deep End, Allie Hazelwood. I'll go soft yes as well. This follows somebody who's on the competitive swim team and dive team for the same college. They both find out they kind of have the same kink, and because of that, a romance ensues. The only thing I don't really like about this is there was some beefing that didn't need to happen between some of the women. Female on female drama that was just I thought unnecessary to the plot line. Also, it felt like they never would have had a love story if they didn't share the same kink, like if they had never found out about that. But once they did fall in love, like their love story was great. But like, would I read it again if I wanted a fun little read by Ali Hazelwood? Absolutely. It just wasn't my favorite of hers. Tomorrow. So remember when we talked about Hooked and my husband went and got me books for my birthday? This was one of the books he also got that I got at the checkout. He checked out with Hooked by Emily McIntyre and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. This book spoke to my brain. Tomorrow. I loved the writing style. This felt very similar. The writing style isn't necessarily like romantic in the way that V.E. Schwab's feels, but they have the same talent for bringing you into a character's lives day to day, and it's very mundane until all of a sudden there is this plot device that starts happening towards the end, and you are so enraptured and in love and intertwined with the characters by the time that happens, that when those things do start to happen, it's like emotional devastation. Like, it's just like crazy. Would recommend it. Another book that I do think I don't think everyone would like it, and I understand that wouldn't be for everybody, but that would be a book that I would like confidently with my full chest recommend to anybody too, even though they might not like it. But you're following these group of friends, and they're building a video game, but it's just like so much more than that. I think just everybody should read it. It's just like a general literary fiction. There's some subplots of romance in there. The next one I have on here is Book Lovers by Emily Henry, and we will put this one in Spoke to My Brain because Charlie Lastra, The Man That You Are. I loved this book. I ate this one up. This is my second favorite Emily Henry. I may have spoke too soon, but this is in my top 3. You're following Nora and Charlie, and Nora is like this businesswoman in the city taking care of her family, very much like eldest daughter role. She goes to this small town with her sister, and then she meets Charlie again. Charlie, who has kind of like been a rival previously, like they didn't necessarily get along. Just was such a sweet story. I loved Book Lovers. Part of Your World, Abby Jimenez, just fine. Again, this is almost like Love redesigned. I kind of wish I had something in between Just Fine and I Don't Know This Girl Anymore, because I did recently read this, and the whole reason I wanted to get into Abby Jimenez's writing is because of Yours Truly, which is the next book. But I read this and I just didn't really like it. I didn't love the writing style. Again, it felt very like this happened then. There were some painfully irritating moments in the book as well, and I started to feel like the female main character was cycling her abuse and almost becoming the abuser towards the male main character. Not to the severity of the extent that she had experienced from like her ex and her father, but she treated the male main character like garbage. Mile High, Yikes. This is the first book in the Windy City series, which is a interconnected standalone sports romance series. This is the first one. You're following Xander and Stevie. Xander is a hockey player. Stevie is the flight attendant on their private jet to get them to and from, and Xander is a douchebag, and that's all I have to say about that. And Stevie was like very much, there's like a point where she has like mustard on her shirt, and she's just like, I'm not like other girls. I go out with sweatpants and mustard on my shirt. Oh, there's Hopeless. Hopeless. This one's my least favorite Elsie Silver book. I think I talked about that earlier, but that was so long ago. This one was like disappointing. They emphasized like a lot of the age gap, just like a little bit icky for me. But Once You're Mine, Yikes. This was a book I turned on audiobook because I was driving back here from North Carolina. I was driving from North Carolina to West Virginia. Came up as recommended after I had listened to Lights Out. This book was so dumb. I'm sorry. I didn't like this book. It is a dark romance. The male main character is like a lawyer in the case, but he murdered the female main character's dad, and now she's like fighting for her life. She was this rich girl, and now she's like, I have to work a normal job and like make money. The lawyer, like, I guess her dad was a bad guy, and this lawyer normally murders people who are bad men who do bad things, and now he's trying to help her, and it's just like so obvious at times, and she's just like not picking up on it because he's like around her in the day-to-day because they're working on like solving the murder that he is the murderer of. At the same time that that's happening, he's like stalking her, and it's just so obvious sometimes like what's going on, and the female main character is just too ditzy. Wouldn't recommend. Serpent and Wings of the Night. This is the first book in the Crowns of Nyaxia series, and I would go hard yes for that one. Really enjoyed it, loved the trials. You are following Rain, and forgive me, I'm not going to Google it because all of my devices are being occupied right now, but you're following Rain and the female main character in this one. And there is something called the Kachari, which is a tournament, and whoever wins gets blessed by the gods, the goddess. These two go into the Kachari. They form an unlikely alliance. They're enemies at first. We know where this goes. And it was fun. It was a really fun book. I really enjoyed it. 6 Scorched Roses spoke to my brain. This is a teeny tiny novella that introduces you to 2 characters who will then be in the next book of this series. I loved. It follows Vale, and oh my gosh, I can't remember that female main character's name right now either, but you're following Vale and this female main character. He is a vampire. The girl, she's in this town that there's this curse and there's this illness, and everybody like eventually dies and flakes away until they turn into dust, and she's trying to find the cure because her sister is about to turn into dust and be gone. For that, she wants to study Vale's blood because he's a vampire and there's regenerative qualities there. And I just loved their romance. Short, sweet, to the point. Had a lot of fun with this. Spoke to my brain. 5 stars. Everybody should read that. Honestly, if you don't want to read anything else in this series, read that book. You don't need, it's not attached to anything. It's just introducing you to characters that will be in the next one, but you don't need any other information to read it. So if you wanted just like a quick and easy read that. It was so good. Now this is the second one, Ashes and Starker's King. It was just fine. I don't remember anything that happened in that. Slaying the Vampire Conqueror. I'm gonna go hard yes. Another little novella that's a part of this series. She is someone who like, they don't have sight, and then she is assigned to assassinate the vampire conqueror, but then of course they're together and romance ensues, and there's just like crazy plot twists and turns, and it's a lot of fun. Short and easy read. If you don't want to read anything else from the series, don't. Just read Slaying the Vampire Conqueror because it was a lot of fun. Divine Rivals, we'll put that in just fine. This is a kind of like a historical fantasy romance. There's typewriters involved. They're writing letters to each other. They're rivals. There are gods at war. Humans are being hurt because of this war. They are reporters, and they go to report at the scene of the crime, at the scene of the war. And it was Right Move, the second book in the Windy City series, and this is gonna be a soft yes. This was fun, cute, spicy little romance. You're following Stevie in the first book. You're following her brother and her best friend. They end up in this roommate situation because Indy, who's the female main character, who's Stevie's best friend, needs a place to live, needs a place to stay. She's going through this heartbreaking breakup, and then she goes to live with Stevie's brother. I like that there's no conflict over it being like, oh, best friend and sibling, because Indy communicates in a pretty funny way to Stevie the whole time about like what's going on between her and her brother. It was very sweet. Indy is through and through like a girl's girl, and it was a fun book. I would recommend that one. I would just skip Mile High. Kingdom of the Wicked, we're gonna put in Spoke to My Brain. This is a trilogy, and the reason I just have all 3 of them together is because I read them back to back to back, and I cannot differentiate in my head what happened in the first, second, and third book. Like, they're all one book to me. You're following, there's the 7 Princes of Hell, and in this one you're following King of Wrath, Prince Wrath. At the beginning, at first, you're just following these 2 twin sisters. They're witches. They have powers. One of them is like a little bit more rebellious and is like, we need to use our powers, but their grandma like warns against it. And the other one, the main one that we end up following, is like plays it a little bit more safe. The rebellious sister dies. Then you meet Prince of Wrath. Him and the female main character start working to solve this case, and things just unravel. Like, it is so plot twisty, turny, and it is so much fun. I love that. If you're looking for a fun fantasy trilogy, it's completed. The trilogy is. There is kind of like a spin-off situation series that's not completed yet. The writing style is so good. The romance is so good. The stakes are high. The twists are turning. It's good. Just read it. And then moving on from that, Throne of the Fallen is the first one in the next spin-off of that. And I'm going to go hard yes for this one. I wanted it to speak to my brain, but it was so close, but it wasn't there. You're following Prince of Envy. Envy is kind of the one that they want you to think of like as a villain. That's how they kind of play it in the other books. And so I kind of wanted to hear the underdog story, like tell me why I should love this man. And it was so good, but it wasn't quite there. But throughout this, there's a subplot of this game, and he meets this girl because she's very important to playing the game. She's kind of like the key to the game, if you will. But this book was so much fun. The romance wasn't quite 100% the end all be all for me. And there were some cringy moments for sure, and some of the spice scenes. Done and dusted. This was continuing on in my audiobook era. I'm probably just gonna go like, this was just fine, probably. Probably put them all in just fine. Swift and Saddled. I think there was another one that I read. Oh, Lassoed, and I'm not sure what the Lassoed dial says. They were just all audiobooks, quick, fun, little cowboy small town romances. If you're looking for a cowboy romance, a lot of people love these. These are by Lila Sage. Heartstopper, also just fine. I was trying to hit a goal of reading 50 books last year. In the last month, in the trenches, I'm trying to read anything and everything, and I'm like, why not a little graphic novel? That should count towards my reading goal. But it's just like a cute high school romance. Just didn't do anything for me. But it was like cute and sweet, and the books are so cute. The X-Files, I'm gonna go hard yes. The X-Files, there's this group of friends. This is a romance, of course. This group of friends, 3 of them. One of them is now getting married. 2 of them had dated in the past, but they broke up for some reason that we don't know about. But they are both like the best man, best woman of this other friend's wedding. The female main character, it is in her point of view. She's so focused on making sure she can do everything right for her friend's wedding. And so she's doing everything in her power, like to avoid, not talk about what happened between her and the male main character, and their romance ensues. There are some serious scenes of tension building, pool scene, if you know, you know. And it was a really good romance. It was super fun. I really liked it. Out on a limb, I'll probably go soft yes. I did really like this one. It was somewhere between like a soft and a hard yes. You're following 2 characters who both have a limb difference. They meet at a Halloween party. They make some funny jokes about limb differences, and they're funny characters. They have a one-night stand. One-night stand turns into a pregnancy, but it was very sweet, very cute. Frederick Bachman, Anxious People. I don't know why I was so picky when I first rated this book, but I was like 4.5, 4.75. Shut up. This book touched my soul. I loved this book. I love Frederick Bachman's writing style. It is just such a unique writing style, and I think most people will attest to that who have read his books. But this is basically, you're following a bunch of different perspectives and point of views surrounding one incident, and that is a bank robbery turned hostage situation. And you're just really delving into people's lives and like what happened throughout that day that got them to that point that they all ended up at. And then how are we going to get to a resolution through this? And it's just such a sweet, sweet story. This is another book that, like, with my full chest, I would recommend to anybody. Not in Love by Ali Hazelwood. Hard yes. I really enjoyed this one. She's getting back into her STEM romances with Not in Love. We are following Eli and Rue. Eli works for this biotech company. She's a scientist, but he works for this company that comes in and like handles business with these biotech companies. So they're kind of rivals and butting heads, but before they even meet at that, they had tried to have a one-night stand situation for different reasons. Through trauma and through their own histories. They do not do romances, so they meet through this app. They're gonna have a one-night stand, but I think something goes wrong and they don't, but then they meet up at work when he's trying to take over, and I love their love story. And speaking of Not in Love, let's talk about problematic summer romance. Spoke to my brain. This book follows Maya and Connor Harkness. Connor is a part of the Harkness group, which Eli is a part of, and then Maya is Eli Eli's little sister. In this book, Eli and Rue are getting married, and it's just so fun to have some resolution to some characters that, like, you knew they worked out, but it's so fun to see, like, their wedding come to fruition. And it's so fun to see characters that you fell in love through their eyes and somebody else's eyes. I read this book during a really hard time too, that my mom did pass away, and I read this book maybe a week or two after, and it just was pure escapism for me. How I was saying with Beach Read, it didn't take me out of the reality of how hard the world was at this time, but Problematic Summer Romance did. For that reason, it spoke to my brain, maybe even touched my soul. Some people would say, like, a silly little romance, spicy book, you know, quirky characters, but I mean, this book is serious to me. And I loved it, and I stand on that. This summer will be different. This was my first Carly Fortune book, and I'm gonna go hard, yes. This one also came to me at a hard time, again, related back to my mom. She had like a hospitalization, you know. Read it during a really hard time, spending a lot of days and nights in the hospital, and this book brought me to PEI, Prince Edward Island. It felt very reminiscent of like northeastern summers that I've had. Like, I grew up going up to New Hampshire every summer, and it felt very nostalgic and reminiscent of that. But you're following the female main character is the male main character's sister's best friend. These two meet, have a one-night stand, then the next day she's with her best friend and she's introducing her to the family, and then she introduces her to the brother. The brother is Felix, who she just hooked up with the other night. They're always trying to like not fall into this again. They really care about each other, but they can't do it because of the sister. I think it was a great book. She really knows how to transport you to a place, a time and a place. She knows how to bring you there. I then read by Carly Fortune One Golden Summer, and shut up. One Golden Summer, I'm throwing that up and touched my soul. I have not stopped thinking about Charlie since the day I read this book. Has my heart. I picked this one up next just because like it was new, it was upcoming. I had just read The Summer Will Be Different, and this was a new release, and I loved This Summer Will Be Different, so I was like, let me read this. And I didn't know about any of the interconnectedness or anything. You're following a girl who brings her grandma, after her grandma just had a surgery, back to their cabin. Charlie does all the work on the cabin and stuff. They both used to go to this island as kids. She actually has this photo that she took that Charlie happens to be one of the people in the photo, and I just loved this book. It just transported you to a place, and again, very reminiscent of my own childhood, like spending summers up northeast. I loved their love story. I loved Charlie. I loved the family dynamics that were resolved, and then tragically I found out that this was related to Every Summer After, and Charlie is the big brother of the male main character in Every Summer After. Every Summer After kind of has like a little sort of cheating situation, soft cheating. I mean, they were like broken up, but Every Summer After was just fine for me. It didn't change my feelings about Charlie, thank God. You know, I'd recommend it if you're looking for like a summer romance, but it wasn't life-changing, mind-altering, or anything like that. Meet Me at the Lake by Carly Fortune, yeah, I didn't like it. I started the book and wanted to DNF it pretty soon on. I didn't really like either the characters, felt like there wasn't much chemistry, but she still has this element of knowing how to bring you somewhere, bring you to a place. I can picture in my brain anytime I think about this book, I'm at the lake, which is a talent in and of itself, but Meet Me at the Lake wasn't for me. Lights Out, this was what brought me to Once You're Mine, unfortunately, but Lights Out, soft yes. Lights Out was fun. I listened to this on audiobook, and I don't know if it would have been the same for me reading it, but the audiobook narrator, chef's kiss, impeccable work. This is following a ER trauma nurse and like a guy, and he makes these masked videos on TikTok, thirst traps. This nurse has been always commenting, and then he decides to find out if she really means what she means, and that involves a little bit of like stalking and things of that nature. I can't lie, it was fun. It was a fun little dark romance. Releasing 10, I feel for the characters so badly in this, but I don't know that I'd recommend this book to everybody. It was a hard read for sure, and it was painful seeing how somebody, especially a girl's trauma, was turned around and blamed on her in a mental health aspect, but it's a lot of trauma. So I don't know that I'd recommend it, but maybe it spoke to my brain a little bit, and the fact I do work in the psych realm, and it's just, you really need to listen to people. Working in the psych realm, your whole job is listening, observing. My girl Lizzie was not listened to. Taming 7 will go soft, yes. Just wasn't my favorite story of this
this is still part of the Boys of Tommen, which is the Binding Keeping 13 whole that series situation. The Housemaid was probably just fine. It was plot twisty, a little thriller, entertaining. I just don't love Frida McFadden's writing style. And so while we're talking about that, let's talk about The Inmate. Yikes. Not a fan. Didn't enjoy it. Fragile Sanctuary. Probably a soft yes. This is a part of a interconnected standalone series that I cannot think of the name of right now. Sparrow Falls. Okay. Fragile Sanctuary is part of the Sparrow Falls, which is an interconnected small town standalone series. That's the first one in the series, and I've only read the first one. You are following Anson and Rhodes. I think her name is like Rhodes. The male main character is a friend of one of the female main characters' found family brothers, not biological, but essentially her family. Something happened at her house, and she's finally coming back to town to like get her home back together, live there, move back there. So he's helping rebuild the home, and definitely like Grumpy Sunshine situation. There's some mystery, some like stalker situation happening. They are romances with an undertone of a mystery thriller aspect, and it was a lot of fun. If you're looking for a little palate cleanser, there's definitely some trauma there though, so always look up trigger warnings if that's something that you need to do, but it was a good one. Gold Rush Ranch series, we are gonna go hard yes for the front runner. So this is back to Elsie Silver, Small Town Romance. This is Gold Rush Ranch. This is her first series. A Photo Finish is following the sister of the brothers in the Chestnut Spring series, and this is her group of friends. Hard yes for Off to the Races and the front runner, and then I'll go soft yes for A Photo Finish and A False Start, or maybe even A False Start could be like just fine, but they were all good. You can kind of tell it's her first series that she ever wrote, but the front runner is probably my favorite one. I loved Stefan and I loved their little romance, but it's a fun series. I think if you're just looking for like some palate cleansers, it's a good time. Great Big Beautiful Life. That was embarrassing. Great Big Beautiful Life touched my soul. I loved this book. This and A Happy Place. A Happy Place is by far, it is my favorite Emily Henry book, but Great Big Beautiful Life did a great big beautiful job. A lot of people say this is like maybe her most literary fiction tale and that it's not romantic. This book is romantic, and stop trying to tell me that this book isn't romantic, but you are following, and I love Hayden. Hayden and Charlie are some like my favorite. Hayden from Great Big Beautiful Life and One Golden Summer, Charlie, some of my favorite male main characters. You're following the two characters in this. They're both authors and they are fighting to be the one to write this girl's life memoir. So you're getting their romance, but then you're also getting chapters that are fully the famous person's story. It was such a good story. I loved this one. I love her writing style. It just really feels like she just knows who she is as an author and a person. I'm surprised by how polarizing it was, and there's some pretty big like plot twists that I wasn't expecting, which was a lot of fun too. But I loved Great Big Beautiful Life. Same time next summer, we'll put this in probably a soft yes, because I tabbed a lot and I need to go through it, but I read this on an airplane so fast and I was so tired and I can't remember it. I cannot remember this book for the life of me. Forgive me, but I do think I liked it while I was reading it. A Novel Love Story by Ashley Poston. This was my first book by her and I loved it. I had such a fun time with it. She has a lot of romance books with magical realism, and basically she gets transported into her favorite romance novel and falls in love there, and it is such a fun read. I really enjoyed it, and I cannot wait to read another one of her books because that's a lot of people's least favorite of her books, and I really enjoyed it. So that means good things for the rest of her books for me, I hope. Sinners Anonymous, probably a soft yes. Either a soft yes or just fine. This was a romance novel, mafia romance, dark romance that I found on Kindle Unlimited, and I can't remember a singular thing that happened in the book, and that's okay. Sometimes we need that, but so maybe we'll put that in just fine, because I literally actually couldn't tell you a single thing that happens in it other than it is a mafia romance. It was digestible, it was fun to read, and it wasn't that dark.
Whoa, that looks sick.
Okay, next book, the favorites, Lane Fargo. This spoke to my brain. Fantastic read. This is a novel following figure skaters. This is competitive figure skaters. This is literary fiction meets romance meets drama. It is so interesting the way this book, if you read this book by anybody's perspective, you could have read every single character. There's like 4 to 5 main characters, if you read this book from their perspective, you would have a whole different take on the whole situation. And it's such a book that can speak to having empathy for people, because when you recognize that, wow, they're viewing this situation 100% differently than I'm viewing this situation, and there's not necessarily a right and a wrong. Sometimes they're just miscommunication. Sometimes there are right and wrong, and sometimes, people fuck up. Through pure entertainment, this book could teach you a massive lesson, or it could go right over your head and you could have just had fun reading the book. But I really enjoyed it. It's the only Lane Fargo book I've ever read, but I will pick up another one in the future because I really, really, really enjoyed this. I would love if Lane Fargo would release, at the very least, if she would release this book from Heath's point of view and from Bella's point of view. I need that book from all the different perspectives. I do. I'm requesting it formally. I've requested it on TikTok. Maybe one day she'll answer our prayers. Then Alone With You. Alone With You in the Ether by Olivia Blake. This is my very first Olivia Blake book, and this touched my soul. Her writing style is insane work. I loved this book. It was just, you're following two characters who are really facing some serious mental health struggles, and you're following them through their lives, and essentially they're going to have 6 conversations, and there's so much fear in that I experienced reading this book, because I want them to fall in love and have a happily ever after, but I didn't know if that's what this book was meant to be, because on the cover it says a love story, I believe, and sometimes love stories, they are tremendous work, but they don't end in a happily ever after because they're not necessarily a romance. I loved it. It was fantastic. The way the two main characters' brains operate is so different to anything I've ever experienced my brain operating like. Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil. We are gonna go hard yes almost spoke to my brain. Now, I love V.E. Schwab's writing style. Again, she just takes you through. So Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil, you will see it advertised as a toxic lesbian romance, which is totally correct in and of itself. There's nothing wrong with that assumption or notion. However, it is much deeper than that, and V.E. Schwab takes you through 3 different point of views. If you didn't see my last reading vlog, I did read and explain the book in depth in that previous video, but she takes you through 3 different point of views through all different centuries, because again, they're vampires, so we're living long lives, just as Addie LaRue once did live a long life. It's very mundane for sometimes, but then sometimes it's exciting, and you've followed the characters for such a long time period, that all of a sudden when the plot does pick up, you're like, oh my goodness, I care about these characters so much because I've spent so much time with them, that you didn't even realize how much you did care until the plot gets a little heavy and a little thick, and that happens in this book. That is the last one on this list. But yeah, that's my thoughts, my takes on a lot of popular BookTok books. Let me know if you agree or disagree with any of these opinions, unless it has anything to do with Touched My Soul. If you don't agree with Touched My Soul, then don't hurt my feelings. Thank you for watching. Thanks for sticking around this long. I hope you enjoyed. Happy Saturday, or happy whatever day it is that you're watching this or that I posted it. And happy reading.